Good morning, coaches, and welcome to the first of our series of webinars on school sport and where is it going. Today, welcome everybody that's all come through. Welcome everybody that's here to watch and to visit us for the first time. It's actually great to have so many replies back to our webinar. Just a first thing is that a couple of our coaches have actually got problems with load shedding. So we are going to send a link during the week of replays of each one of these presentations. We also want to call out to Jaco Lotto, one of our coaches, for unfortunately his twin brother Martin passed away this morning due to the coronavirus. So condolences to him and best wishes to all other coaches that are there and everybody else who's suffering from the coronavirus and what leads back to the coronavirus. Okay, so let's start off. Whilst we're waiting for other coaches to join, we've got a lot of coaches, and not only coaches, we've got media personalities, we've got administrators in sport, we've got a lot of people that are communicating with us and that are part of the webinar. Just whilst we're all waiting for other people to join, do you mind if I just send you a quick poll just to find out where everybody is from? So we're just checking to see where everybody is from, and so far, sure, got a lot of replies coming back from Gauteng. Welcome everybody from Gauteng. Welcome to our webinar. Western Cape, a lot of replies from Western Cape too. It's great to see so many people coming off and coming from all over the country. We've got people from Northern Cape, Limpopo, Eastern Cape, and Mpumalanga, KZN. Pretty much all the provinces. We've actually got people coming from all the provinces. This is great. As I said beforehand, it's not only coaches that are here. We've got people from different kinds of administration within sport. We've got people that are coming from the media side, some journalists. Let me also ask you a second question whilst we're here. Second question is, what sports do you coach? Now, we do have people that have come through from various different kinds of sports. Both we've got athletics, cricket, rugby, but then we've also had some interesting ones, replies back from archery, from gaming sports, from cue sports too. It's quite interesting to see the different array of people, and you can select multiple sports if you are interested. Just give the guys a couple more minutes to come and join us. A couple of people are running a little bit late, but we won't wait too long because we've got quite a busy agenda today. It's actually amazing that 9 o'clock during the lockdown seems like it's quite early in the morning. But for most of your coaches, you're already halfway through your day. You've already set up, you've got half your matches already finished for the day. By 12 o'clock, the day's done for a lot of coaches on a Saturday. Okay, I think it's time for us let's get started. I'm just going to share my screen. Hold on a sec. All right, so why are we all here? Well, we're all here because the whole sporting industry is struggling. Everybody in sport is finding it very difficult to take part in sport. We'd love to say that the sporting industry is carrying on, but we know due to the lockdown we can't play sport, we can't do a lot of sport, especially when it comes to school sports. We also don't know when the school sport is coming back. So we've heard various ideas behind school sport and when school sport is coming back. Some people say that it's coming back in October, November. Some people say it's only coming back next year. Even for your private coaches, they're not 100% sure when school sport can actually come back properly and when their kids can participate. And then finally, coaching is also an ever-evolving process. So a coach can never know too much. You've got ideas, you think, your school sport's working out very well for you, things are going well for your team, but you always have to improve because somebody's always going to try and look to get the edge on you. So coaches are always studying, always learning to try and get to learn more about their own sports. Also here, hopefully through our webinars, we are going to have people talking about various aspects in sport, including some of the sponsors, some people that are coming from the sales side of sport, where they're going to be selling equipment and things in future webinars. So there could be an opportunity to find a way to actually make money, even though as a coach you can't work at the moment. And then, yeah, as I said, coaches are always looking for ways to improve themselves. And then finally, in that little picture on the right-hand side, we are all here for our kids. We wouldn't be into coaching if we weren't here for the kids. We didn't love the kids. But with the coronavirus, it's not been all doom and gloom. We've had a couple of sponsors that have actually come aboard to sponsor sport. So, for example, KFC's renewed their sponsorship in KFC Mini Cricket. Engine are sponsoring Get Into Rugby. And I'm sure there are a lot more sponsors that are coming aboard. Yes, it's not as much as what we normally have. Some sponsors are cutting back, but there are sponsors that are coming aboard. And if you want to, you can actually send me little messages telling me what sponsors you know have come aboard during the coronavirus period. So who are we as a company? I'll go through this quite quickly because Cassie will go through it in more detail a little bit later on. But we are a PR company that's involved mainly in sport. We do PR strategies. We have great relationships with all the media outlets, including your regional media, your community media. We speak a lot to the community media guys. We find something that will actually suit you as a school or a sporting body where we can actually get your stories out there. We do social media strategies for companies and for schools. We do media training, which Cassie will discuss in a lecture in her speech. We do event management. And finally, something that we've got into quite recently is project management and the construction of sporting facilities. We've done mainly cricket facilities up to now, but we are able to actually get into other sports. So some of the projects that we've been involved in, I'll go through these quite quickly because this is more Don Cassie's presentation, but we've been involved in the Craven Week. We've been involved in Kaimajula Week. We've been involved in Kamatsepa Schools Cup, the Non-Nations Cup. So as you can see, like T20 schools, cricket, football, rugby. We've done local and international. We've done school sports and international sports. We've even done things like the Man City matches. So why are we hosting these webinars? Well, because of all the experience we've got in all these different sports, we've got a huge knowledge of sport. We've spoken to a lot of coaches, biokineticists, physiotherapists, different people within sport. And there's no better way to use your knowledge than to share it with others. That's at least our motto. We love sharing our knowledge with others. And we're enabling others through this platform to also share their knowledge. So some of the people that are here, the coaches or the administrators, or I see we've even got, as I said, physiotherapists, media guys, can also contact us and they can also speak in one of the future webinars that we are going to host. As I already said, we don't know when school sport will be back. And we just want to help everybody in the sporting industry. That's coaches, media, administrators, medical staff, etc. And finally, as I've said before, coaches are always keen to learn. So today's speakers are Greg Hurwitz. He's our guest speaker today. Greg is quite well known in South Africa. He's been involved in, especially up here in Joburg. He's done a lot of rugby, cricket. He's been involved in netball, and now he lives in Australia. And he is club ambassador for Southeast Victoria football. So he's got over 260 clubs, if I'm not mistaken, that report to him. And he's also, at the same time, he's gone back into the actual coaching side of sport with coaching the Maccabi Ajax Cricket Club. I am your host today, and I'll discuss a little bit about the power and responsibilities of a coach. And then Cassie will finish off this afternoon, this morning at least, with interviewing strategies. We were at a conference at the end of last year where Malibunga Maketa, he was actually still the Protea's assistant coach. He got up and he spoke to a group of coaches in Port Elizabeth. And he said that whenever a coach goes to work, they're in a position where they can change someone's life. Now, truthfully, I can actually stop my presentation here because I think this statement of his really embodies what a coach does. Malibongwe is phenomenal. He actually understands that changing somebody's life is so important. And yes, I mean, coaches do the technical side, they do the strategy side, they do have a lot of coaching mechanisms that are in the repertoire, but changing a person's life is probably the most fundamental part of being a coach. Here are some attributes of a coach. I went into the LOC and IOC, sorry, and I saw this list that they had, and I actually added some bits and pieces on the list. Now, I'm not going to speak through every single one of the points because I think a lot of them are kind of self-explanatory. However, I just want to discuss one part, and that's the mentorship/parent part of a coach. Now, this is extremely important here in South Africa. As I've done a bit of research on it, and I've seen an article talking about that, South Africa's got 60% of South African children have got absent father figures. 40% of South African children have single mother parents who are the single owners of the family. And sometimes in this case, they've got large families and you've got one person in the family or multiple families all connected where one person's earning money to provide for the whole family. Now, the world average in single mother families is 15%, so we're far beyond that. And no matter how hard this person tries, this parent tries, because there's also single fathers that are running a family, no matter how hard they try, they don't have the time because they're working, they're trying to provide for the family, they don't have the time to actually be their parent figure, no matter how hard they try. So this falls under the coach. Coach can help, can teach various aspects of life's lessons through playing sport, through coaching and sport, and teachers, because a lot of teachers are on this webinar. Teachers do exactly the same thing, where they come through and they talk about, they are mentors for the kids. They talk about problems the kids have. They become the person the kid can actually communicate with or approach. And that's the same with the coach. A coach is exactly the same position where kids can come through. They can learn lessons like how to support each other because a coach is supportive. They can learn how to be respectful of each other because a coach is respectful of them. They can learn lots of little things, including discipline, etc. So a coach is extremely important in South Africa. And well, in the world in general, but specifically here in South Africa, with a lot of kids looking for a father or a mother figure or a parent figure. So here's a bit of difference between a school and a pro coach. Firstly, there's no one-size-fits-all game strategy in school sports. You have a team, you've got your strategy for this year, and what happens? You get a new bunch of kids that come up. And you have to look at those kids and you find the kids every season. You have to find a new strategy for that season because you've got to look at all the strengths and weaknesses each year of the new kids that you've got. Now, in a lot of international teams, you'll see a coach that's got one style of football or one style of rugby or one style of whatever sport they play, netball, whatever it is. And they say that style fits everybody. And what happens is that they lose a player because the player retires or moves to another club or whatever it is. And what they do is that they go out and they look for a replacement for that exact same player's role. Now, truthfully, I've seen it like, for example, if you look at Cricket South Africa with Jacques Kallis. When Jacques Kallis retired, Cricket South Africa tried hard to find a replacement for Jacques Kallis. Now, there's only one Jacques Kallis. And in the future, when Kagiso Rabada retires, there's only one Kagiso Rabada. You can't replace that player for another like player. Maybe they might have some similar traits, but like, for example, Jacques Kallis, it's so difficult to find somebody that's like him. And they throw around names about people that are very similar to that guy. But actually, you can't replace him. You actually got to look at what you've got and use your resources to the best of your ability. And that's what a school coach has to do every single season. There are, however, basic procedures that you can put in place to make sure that your teams, your schools, your teams, your coach, your players can achieve their goals. Now, Greg Hurwitz will go into this in more detail. He'll discuss procedures that you can put in place. So I won't go into this, but there are things that you can put in place, general kind of procedures. So even though the kids change, the strategy changes, your general procedure can be like a generic one that'll also adapt in time because you learn more things through more webinars, and listening to other coaches and doing more research, but you can get basic procedures in place. But the most important thing is that a coach's job is not only about the top athlete, especially a schools coach. It's about all the athletes. So you look at school, you've got your first team, you've got your under 14Gs. The under 14G player is also important. The growth, the benefit of that player is extremely important. That player's parents pay the same school fees as the kid who is playing first in the first side. So he also deserves a bit of attention. So I'll give you a scenario. Now, this is a scenario where I've taken kind of similar kind of characteristics or similar upbringings that some kids have gone through in the future. And I've actually used a modern team, an adult team to actually explain this kind of scenario. But this is very similar to what a lot of coaches have, where you get a kid, for example, from a more affluent family. I'm not saying a rich family, so a family that's okay, that's financially stable, with a lot of family support. And I'm very much generalizing when I go through these three points, these three different kinds of kids. The kid thinks the kid is invincible, it's got massive self-belief, and it's a great kid to have in your team. And a lot of coaches enjoy this kind of kid because you can base a strategy on this kid. This kid is the kind of kid that's always got school kit, that eats 3 meals a day, that if you need to raise money to go and do a camp, this kid can raise the money, can get it from his parents. The kid's got clothing, got shoes to play every game, got transport to all the games. This is the ideal kind of kid to have. However, this is not the only kid we've got. We've got to deal with all different kinds of kids. So the second kid we've got is a kid from a large poor family, single income family. The main money earner, however, in this family is not able to work. Now this, unfortunately, in South Africa is a lot of our kids in South Africa. We've got a lot of coaches here that come from other tournaments that we are part of, where we speak with the very low LSM. These kids don't get 3 meals a day. These kids really, really struggle. These kids walk miles to get to school. These kids really, really struggle in life in general, but they love sport. And as a coach, you can bring them into the team. They can play exceptionally well on the side. They can really grow on the side. The third kid is that eccentric kid. Now, I've got a lot of friends of mine at school that were like this. And I thought some of them towed the line. They seemed more like the top kid, the more affluent kid with a lot of family support. And yes, they had the family support, all that, but they had opinions of their own. They would argue a little bit with the coaches. The coach would say this, they would do that. They always made sure that they enjoyed life at the fullest. They're a little bit different kind of kids in that sense. And they were very creative kids. They had different ways of dealing with life. Now, at school, I had kids that were like that. And they, when I saw them after school and, 10, 20 years later when we had our school reunions, these guys told us how much they struggled at school because they weren't allowed to be themselves. They weren't allowed to express themselves on the sports field. They also couldn't express themselves in the classroom. And you want these kids to be able to express themselves and be the best people that they can be. And there is a place for any kid because they all got just as much talent. All three of these kids have got phenomenal talent. And you never know when you're going to find that diamond. But even if you don't find that diamond as a phenomenal player, these kids still deserve your full attention, that you can grow them as a person. And if that kid wants to become something else, I mean, I've got a friend of mine who at school, he struggled at school. He played exceptionally well at school, at sport. He was a provincial, and I think he played national hockey, if I'm not mistaken, at the school sport level. But he went off and he's become one of the top artists in New York. He's a very creative kid. Now, he couldn't do that at school because he was squashed, because he wasn't allowed to be that kid that he would like to be. He wasn't allowed to speak out a bit. And he was restricted in what he could do at school. And now that he's outside of school, he can grow extremely well. In my case, I had a little bit of a similar situation to this in the sense that, as you guys saw, I played rugby in Italy. At school, we had coaches that would come through, especially in my under 15 year. The coach would come through, he would push me around a bit to try and get me to be aggressive. He would, totally squash me as a person. And eventually I went from playing A team to B team to C team and struggled my way back to the A side. But I didn't want to play because this guy would come in and cluck me and push me around and say, "Oh, you've got to get aggressive, you've got to get into the game." Because he saw other kids were a little bit, or he as a player, that's how he grew, that's how he got into the game. Meanwhile, for me, I withdrew into myself. I went off to Italy, started playing rugby in Italy. The coaches gave me their full support. I felt confident in my game. I could talk to the coaches. I had an opinion in the team. And suddenly, at 17 years old, I was playing for the Italian under-19 side. I didn't continue too much more in my career in rugby, but I had other interests in life. But I did have the possibilities. Now, I know some guys are turning around and say, but that's Italian rugby compared to South African rugby, and the standard is very high in South African rugby. But the fact remains is that I did play far beyond what I could play when I was at my specific school with my specific coaches. And now a lot of this has changed, but there still can be a bit of a problem in South Africa. So let me give you the example of these kind of kids, and hopefully you enjoy this. I'm so sorry about that. Said at the end there that, you know, he loved playing. It was just a dream of his, just a dream of all kids to do well and play internationally or play a high level of sport. I mean, it was more than a dream. Even this kid here could actually achieve and could get to do huge things in life. And the last kid was an eccentric kid. Now, Dennis Rodman really battled to get further contracts in the NBA, and they still managed to find a place for him. There was a place in the Chicago Bulls for him. And his interesting comment was that both Scotty and Michael, they were from totally different kind of backgrounds and completely different kinds of people, respected him, understood him, and had a place for him in their team. And that's the same with their coach. He found a way to make all of them work. He'd let Dennis Rodman have his periods where he needed to get it all out of his system and then move on from there. So I thought that was just very interesting, just looking at those guys. And we do have those kind of kids in each one of our teams and at different levels. They might not be as phenomenal as these guys are. They might be our kid in our 14Gs, but you can still develop that child and improve that child and work on that child as an individual. So types of school coaching, considering what we've just discussed now, I've kind of identified three kinds of coaches, very generic kinds of coaches. And this is a very generic kind of way of talking about it, about these kind of coaches. But you first have your professional coach. So this is your coach that's not a teacher at the school, a coach that's been brought in, or a coach from an external coach that has been asked to coach a kid, coach a kid outside the school because the parents feel like that the kid needs extra coaching or needs to take the kid to another level. So this coach has to achieve at all costs, or this coach will lose their jobs. So if you consider the professional coach within the school, this coach has got certain people that this coach has to report to, gets quite a decent salary, and get told that you have to perform or you lose your job. Or the other side is that, and an example I was thinking of, that you've got a swimmer that has got a gala coming up, and actually a child, let's say for example the child can't swim, and a gala's coming up, and the parents decide this kid needs to be a swimmer, takes this kid to an external coach, says this kid's got a gala in a week's time or a month's time, I want the kid to win the gala, you got to coach the kid. So but in both scenarios, if the kid or the team doesn't achieve their goals, then that coach will lose their job, or that parent will pull the kid out of that external coaching position, or away from the external coaching coach, and put the kid to another coach. So they'll lose that job. So the focus sometimes, even though the coach, because all the coaches, I believe, start off with belief in the kids and growth of the child, and this is what they really want to do and help individuals, sometimes the development of the child is not as important as a result, or they lose focus in the development of the child. Now, as I say, I am generalizing. There are a lot of coaches that prove this wrong. And when I give you the example later, I'll give you an example of two coaches that actually prove this wrong. But the focus is that sometimes can get lost. And sometimes the school says that 9 out of 10 result is not good enough. they want 10 out of 10 results, and maybe even that's not even good enough for this coach. A lot of pressure gets put on the coach. So the focus sometimes gets pushed away. And as I said, I am generalizing more into the career of the coach, and said, because the coach needs to get paid instead of the players. But some of the benefits of the coach, for example, are that the coach can concentrate on the sporting code as a whole, learn as much as possible, learn about coaching techniques, grow the program themselves, but then also look at the sporting code in the entire school. So from your grade ones to your matrics, they can look at it, they can get into a system, they can assist all other coaches that need assisting. My second and third type of coach, this person can really help these guys grow their program. They can bounce ideas off this coach. This coach is great to have if your school can afford a coach like this. Great to have a professional coach in, because they can benefit your school in so many ways. So some of the ideas that I've got to actually help this coach is that if you get a professional coach, and get that coach to partner with teacher coaches. So your teacher coach, I'll explain to you in the next slide, but your teacher coach knows a little bit more about the kids, because they teach the kids, so they've got an education in teaching, but I'll explain it all later. But partner with the teacher coach, where this professional coach can get more in line with the kids. They can communicate with parents and other teachers. Sometimes communicating with parents is not easy, but you can come up with a plan where you can say to the parents, this is what we're planning, this is what we want to do for the season, this is how we want to grow your child, this is how we want to develop your child, this is the plan for the school. And go to the teacher and say, listen, I've got an issue with this one child. What's going on in this child's life? So the teachers and parents can assist this coach extremely. It'll also allow free this coach up to allow long-term plans for the school. So the coach can sit down and give the school a 10-year plan, a 5-year plan, saying, this is what we want to do within the program, within the school. This is how we want to grow the sport within the school. And this will allow all the kids to develop under this program. And as I said, they can oversee other kids, other teams. They can look at other teams. They can assist other coaches out within the school. Your second type of coach that I've classified is your teacher coach. Now, this is a qualified teacher. This is a coach that's a teacher that teaches during the day, during the morning, and coaches in the afternoon. Sometimes this coach often starts off with huge amounts of energy. And sometimes you see them when they're in their late 50s or their 60s, where they're feeling very negative, they're feeling a bit downcast, sometimes even earlier than that, because sometimes they don't feel like they're taken seriously. So you say, okay, well, you're only a teacher coach. If you get 1 out of 10, you win, 1 out of 10 games, that's okay. That kind of coach is in a school that doesn't take sport very seriously. And that coach often feels unappreciated. However, that coach is very important. So the next part is that coach there can be expected to perform as well as the professional coach, but doesn't get the same resources. So this coach gets told, okay, well, you are a teacher anyway in the school. Come and coach our teams. Come and coach our kids. But you must do as well as another coach that focus specifically on sport, but we don't want to give you the money because you already got a salary. You're doing it out of the best interest of love for the kids, and you don't get the same kind of resources as what a professional coach might get. Then the last one is that this coach is often overloaded between schoolwork and coaching. There are a lot of demands nowadays on teachers at the school level. There's a lot of government courses that these coaches have to do, plus and then in the afternoon they have to go and do the coaching. So they can't sometimes focus on future development of their programs or studying the sport as what a professional coach would like. So as I said, this is a qualified teacher. So this person here has got a degree where they actually know about kids and how kids work and how to get the best out of kids. So this person is very, very important in coaching structures. This coach understands the strengths and weaknesses of the kids, and they can take it onto the sporting field and help a child out. Now, I've got a lot of stuff now in quite a few of our programs, especially our primary school programs. When you talk to a coach, they'll say, well, we actually had this kid that was really struggling. This kid had low self-esteem, was battling to make friends. Then we took this kid to the sporting field, and through sport and just playing sport and having fun with the other kids, suddenly it broke down the barriers between this kid and the other kids. And they got friends, they suddenly got lots of friends, and suddenly the academics started improving, and this kid became, a lot more confident, started doing a lot better. So a teacher coach will actually understand this and know how this works amongst kids. And this kind of coach is also interested in the individual. So it looks at the individual, looks at what works with that individual, especially through that example that I gave previously. So I believe that this coach sometimes needs more investment in them, needs to be given, especially in the case when they are not given the same resources as another coach, but expected to receive get the same results. A little bit of investment to this coach. Give this coach the opportunity to also grow themselves and do as well as what they can within their program. Understand that this coach has other duties, and try and help this coach, meet both duties as a teacher and as a coach themselves. And allow the coach to look at ways to assist these kids personally. Now, especially if this coach has got a professional coach above them, and my third kind of coach to assist them, this coach can actually sit with each kid and learn more about each kid, especially in the classroom space and taking the classroom space out into the field. This coach can actually assist all kids personally. The third kind of coach is your volunteer coach. This coach gets the leftover kids. So the kids that play in the lower teams, the kids that maybe not as interested in sport, this coach gets the donkey work, so goes around and picks up the cones, the balls, the whatever else afterwards. And this coach often doesn't know the most up-to-date coaching techniques. So this volunteer coach for me is the coach that's an ex-pupil at the school, a parent, a grandmother. And some of the sports that we're involved in, you get grandmothers that are coaching the kids, or a grandfather that's coaching the kids, or an aunt and an uncle. So this person comes in with absolute huge love of the kids to go and assist their coaches and assist the coaching plans. This coach is phenomenal because it's got a personal connection with individuals. So you can think of it, a grandmother or a parent coming through. They know the kids. They know that kid that would be their kid, and they know all the kids around that kid. And they can talk to them. They've got a nice, really individual connection with these kids. They're always willing to assist. They've got so much strength and so much love for the kids. They're passionate about the sports and the kids. And they're able to get to kids to open up to them and do one-on-one talking with the kids. Now, what that means is that if you've already got the school space where you've got your teacher coach that tries to look at the kids and assist the kids in the school space, but that's sometimes quite a formal kind of setting where some of the kids are withdrawn in that space, that they feel like they can't speak, they can't open themselves up, so they're just drawn to their little corner. Then you take them into the sporting field where they open up a little bit more because it's a fun environment. However, once again, they respect the elders, they're quieter towards their coaches. But the volunteer coach, being a parent or even an ex-pupil with a similar age group, can associate themselves very, very well with these kids. And they can talk to them and open up to these kids. And these kids will open up and talk to them about various aspects within their game, the various problems that they are facing. And then the last thing about them is, how can you help these guys out? Well, you can help them out by investing in the coaching techniques that they've got. Assist them with coaching techniques. So let's say this volunteer coach gets one of the weaker sides, the kids that battle a bit in their sport. To help them, give them a little bit of coaching, invest in their coaching techniques. I don't say give them, like in cricket, you got your level 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't give them a level 3. They don't necessarily need a level 3, but if they go to level 1, they can do the basics to assist the other coaches, the other two coaches, and the basics to give the kids a good enough platform to actually work from. The next one is to use them to find out how the kids work and what makes them tick. This is quite helpful for the first two kinds of coaches, because when those first two can't approach the kid and don't know how the kid works and they've got frustrations with them, they can always turn to the volunteer coach and say, listen, call this kid aside, have a chat to this kid. It really, really will help them out. And make these coaches feel important. They're doing just as good a role as anybody else. Make them feel important, make them feel like what they actually do helps the kids out. And it actually takes very little to make them feel important, because they've got such a passion in the sport and in the kids. So now I've got an example here of 3 types of coaches. The one actually, Morgan, he works for Cricket South Africa. He has not celebrated a birthday in 26 years with his family, because what he does is he organizes the Kai Majula Week every year, and he gives absolutely everything for the benefit of the kids. So let me play this clip for you guys.
for me, I think it's important that the boys understand that this is a platform to showcase your talent. And it's fine if you don't make it here, make it into an SA schools team or SA courts team. But there's so much opportunity going from here there. So all I can say to these boys is encourage them to just keep working hard and know that this is not the end of the world.
I got these girls, they're excited, positive, optimistic about what's coming. And in the past 2 weeks, we've went from the basics, trying to get the basics right technically, and actually get them get us as coaches to understand who's best where, in terms of team dynamics. And but right now, all I can say is that they are improving. They are getting the concepts in, and it's not easy trying to cram so much, in less than 2 months, but our main focus and objective has been clear. It's to try and get them to be to improve technically, and then look at their size and look at their individual skills, and try and work and see if we can get them to play to their strengths. They're kids, and we need to maintain that element of fun.
Yes, it helps a lot. It helps a lot because the kids, you know them individually, you know their strength, you know their weaknesses, and most importantly, you know their background, their family background, where they are coming, the challenges that they are facing, the struggles that they are facing at home, So when you coach them and you ignore their family background, you are going to have a problem. You are not going to make it. You must know them. You must know where they come from, who they are staying with at home.
The tournament always starts on the 16th of December, and my birthday is on the 18th of December. So I'm always at the week. But at the same time, cricket, I've developed a family in cricket. And to be around people that love the game, that share the same hobbies as you, that serve the same passion as you, and also being at the same venue, that's more than enough. And I'm always lucky a family always comes down, they can share part of the celebrations. But just being with the cricketing family on your birthday is a great and wonderful opportunity.
So I've had the luxury and to have obviously Graham October supporting me. Gershon Rob also plays a massive role. They do a lot more than just look at my cricket. They tap into my personal life and they make sure that I've got everything in order in my personal life. They take care of me financially, they take care of me emotionally, so everything. They're basically just massive role models in my life, and to work with someone like Gersh, who was a fantastic first-class bowler as well, is also a privilege, and I'm really glad to have him in my corner as well. But those two have really been phenomenal in driving me and getting me to here to this point.
Just so you know who the different people are. So the first one is Rowan Richards. Now he's a professional player, ex-professional player that actually retired last season. And now he's been taken into Queen's College, where he's assisting all the coaches from each age group with their kids and growing their kids. So he comes through and he looks at all the kids and he believes that his experience and what he learned as a player, his change of experience, he can actually give that to the kids and grow them as individuals. The second one is Sibusisa from Wits. He was given that impossible task of 1 week to prepare kids to play an international tournament. Kids from a township here in Joburg, a very, very poor township here in Joburg. And he was given a very difficult position where he had to develop these kids in 1 week to go and play an international tournament where he's playing against, it was a girls' side against high performance teams from Roma, Barcelona, from different kinds of massive sporting clubs with huge resources. And he did look at the technical side, naturally, and the tactical side, but he looked at each one of the kids as individuals and saw how you can actually grow them. And he managed to do that in 1 week. The kids went overseas and they had a phenomenal time. They learned so much about going overseas and playing. The next coach, he's a coach from Limpopo. Now with him, it is quite interesting because he talks about how he can take the information that he learns about a kid at school and put it into the sporting field. Now, there's a specific kid that they actually found as a street child. The school found this kid on the streets. They approached him, they tried to find his parents, they assisted him. They brought that kid into the school. They started teaching him, they gave him accommodation because they couldn't find his parents. He's an orphan child. And now he actually stays, that specific coach fosters that child now. He stays with the coach mentors him, assists him. He's got him into the school program now. He's studying very well. And funny enough, he was the best player in the team. Sundowns were there to watch the tournament, saw this little kid, and they've earmarked him. They've left him at the school so he can carry on playing at the school, but he gets invited to Sundowns camp so he can learn more about his football. So you can see how much they're helping and assisting an individual. This kid would have been still stuck in the street, still battling to eat. Hopefully he would still have been alive. I mean, who knows? And they managed to get this kid into a system where he can flourish and grow as an individual. And now he's got lots of friends at the school. It's great. The last one that I actually did, then you got Morgan talking naturally, as I said to you beforehand, about his birthday, always giving back to the kids, and that's how important he finds working with kids. But the last guy I thought I'd actually add in was a bit of a surprise one, I thought, his name is Sia Plaiki. He's a S-19 cricket player. He's a phenomenal player for Western Province. He's actually playing now. He's actually been really put into the Western Province senior side. He's a fast bowler, and he comes from a very, very poor background, very similar to the previous kid that we were talking about, excepting that he does have his mother, and his mother tries so hard to bring up him and his brother, but she can't give them 3 meals a day. Now, both his coaches that he mentioned, both Graham and Gershwin, Graham found him whilst he was still in the mini cricket phase, brought him into cricket, assisted him. Gershwin's now his higher level coach. But they've seen him, they've seen how he's grown, they've seen how to help him. They've put him into, if I'm not mistaken, at Rondebosch High School, where he can study, he can get a proper education. He's got a bursary there. They've really looked at him as an individual. To tell you the truth, Graham October's gone out and actually paid, given his mother money for food, so she could feed both her kids on weekends when Persia goes home. He's made sure that he's got kids. This is the kind of level that some coaches can get up to. Now, it's not always easy for all coaches, but some coaches really take it to the extreme where they can actually help this kid out financially, physically, everything that they can do. So to do this chat, I've gone through and we've gone and looked at various books, lots of different books. Some of these books have been suggested by other people. At the end of the webinar, and later on, I'll send you this link that you see at the bottom there, which helps you get into contact with all 3 of the speakers that we've got. But 3 of the books I thought that I'd highlight. Now, there's many books, and I'm not going to highlight them all. But the first one I found was quite interesting. The book Legacy by James Kerr was fantastic, all about the All Blacks and the culture of the team and the way of life of the side. I thought that was really fascinating. I learned a lot from that book. Then this is something that my friend Tim Goodenough, I'm sure a lot of you guys know him as a sports psychologist and as a high performance coach. This is one of the books that Tim often talks about, and he actually advised me to read. He's got a series that if you go to Udemy, you've got a couple of lessons that you can do with Tim. He's fantastic. He's unbelievable, this man. And he suggested this book to me, fantastic for any aspect of life. The third one, I thought, well, let's give a South African example of a book that helps. Now, this is a brand new book that's just come out. And I know it speaks about the influence of love and business, but actually these 21 laws of winning with relationships apply to anything. So across the board. Justin just knows very well how to sell. So he knows that if you put love and business in something, you'll sell books. But truthfully, what he has to do in his book, what he talks about is fantastic to help you break barriers, to deal with people, to deal with your coaches, to deal with kids. Cassie and I actually were in one of his seminars last year, where he actually went through these 21s, he did every single one of these laws with us prior to actually releasing his book. It was fantastic, really, really interesting. So these are just 3 books. You will get an email later on or during the week where we'll give you this link at the bottom again. It'll